What's up, everybody? I am Coach Willis with Willis Performance Training, and I am here with a special guest. Is not even the right words to describe who I get to speak with today. I'm here with Kika Mela, of Mela Therapeutics. Kika, welcome. How are you doing?
It's great. Thank you so much for having me. I love talking to you. Always have great conversations, and I look forward to it.
Every single time. I always feel like a smarter person every time we have a conversation. When the conversation's done, I never go into the conversation feeling the same. I always come out with like buckets and loads of knowledge. That's why I'm like so looking forward to this conversation today. It's like I'm ready. I'm ready.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and you too. Let me tell you, you contribute, you helped me in a few things over the years, and I greatly appreciate that.
Well, I'm honored to be able to help. Seriously, like I really mean that. But Kika here is a sports therapist down in South Florida, and she worked with, well, you have worked with literally thousands, we say hundreds of thousands, like a bunch, I'm gonna say a bunch, a lot of athletes, and she helps them, improve performance in ways that are just, I say, magical. But I'm gonna give the platform over here to Kika. I want her to say a little bit more about what she does and how she helps the people she does. So
Hey, hold on one second. There was a lot of static there, so if you could just repeat what you want me to say.
Yeah, no, I was just saying that you help a lot of athletes in the professional ranks, NFL, tennis, MMA, you name it. And so I was just wanting you to. I was giving you the opportunity to take the floor and kind of explain, who you are, your background, what you do, and what's keeping you going right now.
Oh, thank you so much. So I've been a licensed massage therapist for about 25 years now. I have a degree in exercise science from FAU. I've been working with elite and professional athletes as the majority of my business since I started with Reader Performance back in 2006. We do have myself and my husband, we own Mela Therapeutics. We have a great team of therapists that work with us and help with us as well with the athletes. One of the things that helps us stand out, I guess, in a sense of what we do is Roberto and I are both muscle activation specialists, which is a really unique approach to looking at the body. We kind of look for the weak link in the body because you're only as strong as your weakest link. And it's usually muscles that aren't contracting as well as they could. So our job is to kind of hunt that down, get them to work better, enhance it with, say, some strategic exercises. And then people can, a lot of times the compensations that they had, they no longer need as well because the muscles that are doing the job or what are supposed to be doing their job are doing them now. One of the things. We also have a unique approach to massage therapy. We have a sports massage internship that we do every year during draft prep season where it's actually a free program because we want people to have a lot of hands-on experience. So they work with us for 8 weeks. They get trained for about 2 months prior to that 8-week program. And they get to work with all these amazing young men. You mentioned one or two that we worked with together, and it's just been fabulous. I've been so blessed. Sometimes I just look and I'm like, oh my gosh, if I think about my life and the opportunities I've had, and the people that I've been able to see, interact with, go to their homes, travel all over the country and even out of country to work with people, it's just been mind-boggling, and I'm just extremely blessed.
I mean, that's great that you think that, but I'm telling you right now, I feel like the sports world is more blessed to have you in, both you and Roberto. I can't speak highly enough of both of you. Just to have such great personality behind it's invaluable.
Thank you. Thank you. And we got to meet people like you and your brother. I mean, like, that's the whole reason we got together was through therapy and stuff and FIU. And watching you develop from a young man and as a linebacker, I believe, right?
Yeah, linebacker.
Are you linebacker? A linebacker into a successful businessman. Yeah, absolutely. And your brother, basketball.
Well, appreciate it. When was that? That was November 17th, 2007. Tore my ACL. You were both at the game, right?
No, we weren't at the game. No,
You weren't at the game?
no, I don't. I don't know.
I
I
believe.
might have been. You know what? I think that might have been the one game we went to, and we've been working with FIU for the last couple of years, and I still haven't managed to go to another game. It's terrible.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you and Roberto were at the game, and I remember going into.
At the stands with your brother.
Yeah, you were there with Jeffrey, and I remember Roberto saying he said he saw the second that I went down. He said he knew it was probably ACL. But I can tell you right now probably that injury, going through that and working with you guys and going to see Dr. B and going through the whole rehab process literally changed my whole perspective on training and preparation. Like, has such a big influence on what I'm doing right now. Like I literally that moment, November 17th, like 2007, and that whole 5-6 month process, and you and Roberto like tapping one part of my ear and then my calf starts to work.
It's crazy. And you know what? It sounds like, and I've been doing MAT since 2007, and it's been so long, but did you see that? It's still like magic to me, even though there's a scientific base to it, and I have a reason scientifically, and I can backtrack. I still shake my head. It's like, wow, that was really damn cool. I can't believe that just happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the things that you and Roberto do are just, it's just like, it's amazing. Like, it's just amazing. And then on top of that, so you guys are practicing MT, you're working with all kinds of, draft picks and elite athletes, but then you also come up with the Kiro Core belt.
Oh, yes.
You have to tell us more about the Kiro Core belt. How does
Okay, let me just, I have one in the closet here. Hold on.
Okay.
So this one, it's not the one I can actually put on. I left that in the car when I came upstairs. I forgot. This is an extra large. I made one for one of our athletes, but it's actually a training harness where you put this on.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole reason that I had to solve a problem. Most things you create something to solve a problem. So as an MAT specialist, I mentioned that we look for weak links in the body. And this was back in 2012 or 10, I think more is when it started. And I kept seeing these guys come in and they had the most ripped abs and they could do a plank for 10 hours and they were just shredded. But I still had to go back and treat the core because I would find it to be weak in certain positions. MAT looks for what you can't do. So if you can't rotate your trunk, or if you lift your leg and your whole pelvis drops, something's not doing its job. So I break it down into the individual muscles. So certain muscles might be working really awesome and they do a great job and they hypertrophy, they get bigger. But then the muscles that are supposed to be assisting or even the prime movers, maybe for whatever reason, they're not doing their job 100%. I'm not saying that they don't do anything because then you would fall apart, you just being a blob, but they're not contributing as well as they could maybe throughout the entire range of motion, especially in the short positions or when they're loaded or dynamically. So I kept wondering, why am I going and treating the obliques, the transverse abdominis, all these muscles when they have this amazing core program? Or they would, we had a rash of them doing the P90X and they all had the same issues. It was crazy, like almost the same rotational deficit. So when we started adding real specific exercises to their program, so let's say I found that they were limited in left trunk rotation and the biggest muscles that needed help and better endurance were, say, the internal oblique on the same side or the external oblique on the opposite side. I would have we started playing around and developing some real specific exercises that the coaches could do as like a warm up or a prehab, or if they were doing a lot of trunk work, to supplement in between sets to reactivate those muscles. So maybe they couldn't last 4 sets or 3 sets. Maybe they shut down after the first set, and then every set after that, they would be working at half capacity or less optimal capacity. So we started working with the band core series and the single arm sled marches, because I wanted things to be done not only in the weight room statically, but then it had to transition into dynamic stability. So we would play around with exercises on the turf as well. So you've been to Bomberitos, you've seen the single arm sled marches, and you've seen the band course series. Those were all created because I couldn't find anything else to focus and stimulate. But unfortunately, with, say, a lot of those core exercises, the band will roll off your shoulder, right? It's hard to do it at a high speed. And most of the belts only deal with straight on or straight back. You don't get that rotational, which is one of the things I saw the most. So this was designed to create, so you can actually put a rotational challenge on the body. And the sliding rings help you do that. So you put this on and you actually can train pure trunk rotation, but then you can turn to the side and you can treat pure lateral trunk flexion. If you keep going, you can actually treat trunk rotation with the anterior muscle focus. And this is then sprung out into the ability to actually engage the hips, load dynamically, warm up the hips in ways that when you do your leg drive, they're engaged, the core's engaged, everything now working together in sync. After you isolate, then you integrate. So hopefully you don't compensate. So it's been a labor of love out of necessity, and Bomberito adapted it a little while ago. They were my test subjects. And thankfully they started seeing a reduction of the problems I was seeing. Hamstrings because of core weakness, groin issues because of instability of the pelvis, a bunch of other things that they started seeing a lot less of because they started to use this and get everything to function better and dynamically as well.
Funny you mentioned that. So you just mentioned hamstring weakness and core weakness. How are those two interrelate there?
Okay, so you know the pelvis, correct? Okay, so let's see what I got. I'm going to use this great book. We talked about the mechanics of sprinting and hurdling. I'm going to use it in my demo. So if this is your pelvis, correct? If this is the front and this is the back, this is an anterior tilt, correct?
Correct. Okay,
so if this is going to tilt here, the hamstrings are located here. So you see how they elongate? And if the core muscles were here, they work together like a force couple. They work together like this to keep that pelvis in line. So the abs have to pull upwards. The hamstrings pull downwards to keep this stable. So let's say you overwork the core by doing 500 sit-ups and it gets tired and fatigued, and then you decide to do a run. You might not have the ability to hold this up as well, and it starts to sag. So what happens here? The hamstrings start to get elongated, and as you go through running mechanics, as you bring this leg up, you're maxed out already, right? And that hip flexion. So you can't go any further. So then this hamstring is trying to not necessarily overstride, but if you're maxed out, you're at your end range, correct? So I don't know if you can see it. Let me move this to the side a minute. This is what I discuss in my blog that I'm going to release on Thursday. This is exactly, you're going to love it. This is exactly what I'm going to talk about. And I have a little graphic too. So I don't know if you can see this. Hang on a second. If I'm running here, right? Can you see that? If my abs can't hold, I'm going to sag here. And you see how my hip flexion dropped? but my actual angle didn't change. Look at this. I got all the tricks here.
Look at this.
See there? You see that perfect 90-degree angle?
Mm-hmm.
If I could hold upright. But if my core doesn't hold, look. This stayed at 90 degrees. I'm still maxed out in hip flexion, correct?
Mm-hmm.
But my core didn't do its job by holding up. That's all core. And hip extension on the opposite side, because the hip extensors, which are the hamstrings and glutes, they work together to keep me upright here. So if I sag up my core, I do that. If my hamstrings and glute don't give me that drive, which you've seen in all the drills, remember the wall drills when it's always here, squeeze your glutes?
Yep.
That's part of the reason. It helps you to keep that pelvis in place. So that way, because you probably see a lot of guys when their hamstrings are tight when they run, I always have to ask them, is it on the turnover or is it on the drive? So if it's on the turnover, a lot of times it's because they're maxing out here and they can't go any higher, but they're still trying to. And it creates like a stretch effect. Like you feel that tight because it can't go anymore. And especially as the knee starts that transition phase, when it starts to come out a little bit at the end of transition from up to here, as the lower leg, the shin starts to come forward, they feel that tightness there in the hamstrings. That's also adding extra torque to the core. As that limb comes forward, it's creating a longer lever from the axis of rotation of the hip and the core. So this is lighter and less torque than if I start to extend this out. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense to me.
Just like a dumbbell is heaviest when it's out to the side, then it's down here. A 2-pound dumbbell gets a lot heavier here, but it's light here. And then as it gets close to the axis of rotation, it gets lighter again. So that can all, force couple like driving a car and a steering wheel. If you've ever had the pleasure of no power steering, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a little older. I've had a lot of cars in the past that didn't have it. A bunch of junkers. My sister drove a truck called Belvedere, an old Ford pickup, like a 70s. It didn't have power steering. So you had to use both hands to crank that sucker around the turn.
Right.
So together, abdominals pull up, hip extension pull down to keep that pelvis where it needs to be. So bilateral, you got both legs and both hamstrings, but when you're single leg, now you're depending upon one leg, one group of extensors, and the abdominals in a not a bilateral force. I'm trying to think of the word. I can't think of the word, but one-sided and it's off center.
Mm-hmm. So how does the Kiro core?
Okay. So, oh, I missed that last thing. It was silent. Oh, I hear static. Okay, there it goes. I think something's on their microphone or something. That's better.
Okay, so how does the Kiro core come into play, and how can it help fix that?
Okay, so we can do a couple of things. One, we can isolate as best as we can. It's impossible to isolate everything, 100%. But we can target just the core muscles that we find to be needing help. Then we can integrate it into the motion. So the hips and the core go together, correct? So we can address the core, we can address the hips, then we can integrate both together in an action using the Kiro. So with a single leg stand using the Kiro with the rotational component, let's say I put it here and you're holding the resistance, it's going out to here. That gives me resistance. It makes me want to go this way, so my trunk has to pull my right rotation. Okay, so If I'm dealing with my right trunk rotation, I can do an isolated rotation to train it. I can do an anti-rotation by either having someone pull the resistance, or if I'm on a cable system or a Vertimax or a Raptor, I rotate into the resistance and I'm anti-rotating. I can make it more active by going further into the range of motion. I can load that and progress this strength.
Mm-hmm.
I can also turn around and I can do my abdominals this way. So I can get my focus on my back more, or I can focus on my anterior muscles more, depending on how I set it up. Then if I have the resistance here with the Kiro, if I do a single leg stand here, I'm trying to pull, the resistance is trying to pull me forward. I'm resisting with right trunk rotation. This leg has to resist with external hip rotation. Otherwise, I'm going to do this at the hip. Either I'll break at the core or I'll break at the hip. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So if I stand on the same side leg, so the resistance is pulling me this way, I have to resist with right trunk rotation.
Yep.
My hip is now having to resist with internal rotation, because otherwise it's going to pull me this way. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect
So it's
sense.
going to pull me this way, so I have to internally rotate to prevent this from happening. So in my running mechanics, there's so many forces going on while you run in a single leg stance, driving. So this will help train those muscles either statically, build up with strength and endurance statically. And then when I'm running with the Kiro, each step is engaging internal, external, depending on how I have the harness set up. And also integrating the whole system. So it has to integrate the core component and the hip component, all the way down to the foot even, to help combat the forces. Obviously, with a running or a sprinting drill, you don't want to have a lot of resistance. You should have built that up statically first. But the Raptor is such a great tool to engage it a little bit. Or you can even do sleds in a more controlled motion, to where you can build the strength that way with slow sled walks and progress to higher speeds with less weight, so that you don't want to lose your composure and your form.
Well, it definitely sounds a little bit more effective than doing 100 crunches and 5-minute planks every other day.
Right. Well, so I had a great, I did a, you remember when I interviewed close to 100 people about the core and how they train the core.
Yes.
I still have to compile all the thoughts. But one thing that someone said that was awesome, I can't remember who said it. What other muscle do you do 500 reps on in the whole body? Nothing.
You don't.
And why? Because you overtrain, you overwork. After a while, the form is, you're what is your goal? You're not, whatever your goal was, you ended it about 200, 300 reps ago. So it's interesting that this is the one area that people do so much of. And usually when, as an MAT specialist, when they've done that many crunches is when I find the most things turned off, because it just couldn't handle the volume as well as it could. Doesn't mean you can't build up to it. Anything can be progressed, but usually people jump too far ahead, and certain muscles just don't have the capacity, so they kind of, take a break, and then you're left with the other guys doing all the work.
No, that makes sense. And you actually, I'm gonna pull up your article here, because when I read, there was a line in there that made somewhat sense, and I want to see if you can kind of elaborate on it. But it says the core is responsible for creating motion in all directions, but must also be stable and strong enough to prevent motion, which I think is a concept that a lot of people don't understand. But could you kind of delve into that, and what do you mean in terms of how it prevents motion?
Okay, absolutely. So, let's say that we're just dealing with your daughter there, right? So if she comes and jumps on you and grabs your arm, she's gonna want to pull you down. Like the weight of her, if you are not expecting that, she jumps on your arm and you're gonna drop to the side, correct? That's an unexpected load on the core because the core has to keep you upright. Otherwise, you're gonna drop over. Uh, that's one way. Or you go to pick up something and you don't realize you don't have it perfectly even, and the right side is heavier than the left side. So now you go to pick it up. Oh, that was not expected. It could be you think you know the weight of the object, but you're way off, and so it's a lot heavier than you expected. Or you're taking if you're running down the field and you take a hit, it's an unexpected load. If you kind of prepare for it, you might not be completely expecting what it is. So there's so many opportunities in daily life, but especially in sports where you're going to be caught off guard, and your body should be able to adapt and react and be reflexive to a certain point. A reflexive tightening of the body or resisting the motion depending on what you want done. Otherwise, you're just going to collapse and go with it. Of course, unless that's your goal too. So the unexpected loads, it can also, so you have to prevent motion as well. So let's say that I do a deadlift and my right side is a little weaker in the back than my left side. As I go to lift, my right side might not be as stable, so I might tilt a little bit because it couldn't maintain that center posture. I might correct it somehow, or when I get in better position, I'm even. But at the initiation, all of a sudden the left side of my body takes more load. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So you're only strong as your weakest link. So I might be able to lift as much as I can on the left side, but I'm not getting 100% contribution from the right side anymore until I get to a more upright stance. But in this compromised position where the load is a lot more, the torque is a lot more, I might have a little bobble. I might be able to see it, I might not be able to see it, but your body is going to respond to it regardless. And you want it to be able to respond effectively, efficiently, and with the best capability that it can. And same thing on a bench. Have you ever done single arm dumbbells and you've seen somebody do this on the dumbbell? I don't know if I can show it here, but you go to lift up one and they dip, their other shoulder comes up a little bit.
Yes.
They were unable to hold that in place. So the load was too much, so they dipped until they got to here where it's a lot less torque. Because if I'm out here, see how much torque that creates? But when I'm here, it's a lot less torque. So here, there's a ton of torque, and you do this. It could be purely shoulder, but a lot of times it's here. So that'll be on a blog maybe next week or so. I'm going to talk about bench press torque and how the core needs to be stable. And if not, you could end up like this on the bench. I mean, exaggerating just so you can see, but you're no longer even. And if you're not able to hold that position, then this guy here is going to take more load at the bottom. This guy here might stay shortened, might not ever be unloaded. You never know. So sometimes the core can affect things in the shoulders, down in the hips, obviously in the core itself. So being able to move with strength and also to be able to not move to handle unexpected loads are critical, and not only just strength and performance, but just in safety too.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's all like so fascinating, just the way everything like is so interconnected. Like it's crazy, but I know we can go on for literally like hours and hours. we're gonna break. This is gonna be the first of many, Kika, because we're gonna break this up and segment it. But this is like all just like this such amazing stuff. But I actually had to get ready to go and get this house back in order, and this dog, and they're like screaming and stuff upstairs. But Kika, thank you so much, seriously, for coming on and like
Thanks
sharing
for
knowledge.
asking me.
Yes, absolutely. I'm serious. Like this is like the first of many. This can be like a bi-weekly thing, a monthly thing, something, but I would just love having you on and just
I
speaking.
would be more than grateful to do that and to share. And like I said, like the next couple of posts I have in my blog on hero concepts will actually we talk about them today, and it'll actually flesh it out a little bit more.
That's right. So today was a foreshadow, so y'all know what's coming later on in the blog post. Kika, thank you so much. If someone wanted to get some more information on the Kiro Core harness, where should they go?
So it's kiroconcepts.com. That's KIRO concepts, CONCEPTS.com. We can find us on Instagram at Kiro Core on Instagram, and Facebook, Kiro Core Trainer, I believe it is.
Perfect. Well, Kika, again, thank you so much. And I look forward to the next time we speak. And please stay safe and healthy down there. I know Florida's like a hot spot right now, so inside is the place to be.
We're crazy down here. We're crazy. We don't care.
Florida stays in the headlines.
They do. It's entertaining at least.
It is. But thank you again, Kika. Have a good one. We'll be talking soon.
Okay. Ciao.